Hey, welcome back, everyone. So you can see I'm actually on the road again, actually here in Florida. Going to be joining the film premiere of Dinesh D'Souza's 2000 Mules. I'll keep you all updated on that. Folks, some big stories to go into. First of all, Roe versus Wade may get overturned. This is according to leaked information obtained by Politico. The Chief Justices have confirmed that it's real, but they're saying it's a betrayal that it was leaked. And also they're saying it's basically political pressure trying to get them to drop it. And they're saying they're not going to fold to that. I'm really going into this and telling you what's happening with Roe versus Wade. Again, possibly the ending of abortion in America, but we'll see how this affects local laws. Also, folks, leaders right now, different people are warning there is a food crisis coming globally. We're going to go over some information on this. I want to give you a real clear picture of where things are at with this. What's happening with the fertilizers, what's happening with shipping. Also, I want to go a bit into what's happening with these, fires they're saying. Also, folks, exclusively, we're going to have, again, we're doing the first 20 minutes right here on YouTube and on Rumble, as well as Epic TV. After that, we'll jump exclusively to Epic TV. So if you don't have your subscription yet, again, it's the 1-year anniversary right now. We have a special offer for all of you, which is 1 year special, 50% off. Be sure to get it. It's in the description below. But we also have the CEO of Goya Foods, Robert Unanue, coming on, and he explains what's been happening with these fires at these food processing facilities. Be sure to check it out. It's going to, again, towards the end of this episode, and that'll be over on Epic TV. All right, folks, that said, let's talk about what's happening with Roe versus Wade getting overturned. And of course, thanks for being here, all of you as well. Yeah, I'm in Florida right now, actually. All right, so folks, I want to start by showing you this. This is Politico. Politico is saying Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion rights, draft opinion shows. Now, let me show you this article real fast. This is the article that's kind of started this whole conflict. You might have seen the videos of the protests taking place. This is what started that. It says here, the Supreme Court has voted to strike down the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, according to initial draft majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito, circulated inside the court and obtained by Politico. I'll go into that in a minute. The draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision, which guaranteed federal constitutional protections of abortion rights, and a subsequent 1992 decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that largely maintain the right. And it says this, according to Alito, the letter they're saying, Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. And it says, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, he writes in the document, labeled as the opinion of the court. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Now, briefly on this, of course, Politico is a highly partisan news outlet. I would say very far left in its opinions. And the fact that somebody leaked this to Politico, this is being interpreted as a political move, of course, providing it, of course, to a media that's going to frame it in a certain way, and also something that people believe was intended to, but has regardless, sparked these protests across the country, sparked media pressure against the Supreme Court. And they're putting this pressure on the Supreme Court now politically, in terms of media coverage and in terms of protests, trying to make the justices reverse this decision. Now, they're saying they're not going to reverse it, and they're also saying that not only that, but whoever leaked it has betrayed the court. Let me show you this. Epic Times reports this. Chief Justice Roberts calls leak of Roe v. Wade ruling a betrayal and orders Supreme Court to investigate. I won't go over this whole thing, but it says this. The Supreme Court on Tuesday responded to the leak of a draft ruling and confirmed its authenticity. So they're saying that ruling was real. This isn't just rumor anymore. They're confirming that it's real. Roe v. Wade is getting overturned, and there's pressure on the court to drop it right now. Now, issuing a statement from Chief Justice Roberts, who called the leak a betrayal of the confidences of the institution. Somebody is basically trying to undermine the Supreme Court through this leak, is what they're suggesting. It says this. The Supreme Court... Now, it says this. Yeah, sorry. The Supreme Court confirmed the document's authenticity, but said the draft does not represent a final decision by the court or the final position of any members in the case. Meaning, again, that the intention of leaking this could be to make them change that opinion in the final decision on this. And they said, to the extent this betrayal of the confidences of the court was intended to undermine the integrity of our operations, it will not succeed. That's according to Roberts. And he added that the work of the court will not be affected in any way. Roberts also said he directed the Marshal of the Supreme Court to carry out an investigation into the leak and the individuals, or individual, we'll see, who leaked it to the press. So they're going to be looking into who provided to the press, what happened with this, and we'll see if there's prosecutions on that as well. Should the leaker be identified, it's not cleared what actions will be taken against them, maybe legal, maybe just fired, we'll see. Although Roberts said the leak could be considered a significant breach of trust. And he said this, we at the court are blessed to have a workforce, permanent employees and law clerks, who are intensely loyal to the institution and dedicated to the rule of law. And now, of course, he was appointed by George W. Bush. And he continues stating, court employees have an exemplary and important tradition of respecting the confidentiality of the judicial process and upholding the trust of the court. Maybe they'll be held in contempt. Maybe something else will happen. But, this is interesting because guess what happened as well? James O'Keefe, again, head of Project Veritas, an independent investigative journalism organization, came out and pointed to this and made the comparison that when Project Veritas received, a leaked document, it was the journal of Joe Biden's daughter. Of course, they tried returning that document. They couldn't confirm it, right? They couldn't confirm whether it was actually Joe Biden's daughter's journal. The journal was kind of freaky because it had things like her talking about showering with Joe Biden nude when she was a child and saying it felt very inappropriate, things like that. This journal, they tried confirming it. They couldn't confirm it, so they didn't report it, actually. Then what happens? They tried to return it to the Joe Biden family through a lawyer. They refused to take it. The Biden family refuses to take the journal back, even after they try to return it. Then what do? Project Veritas goes to the police and tries to turn it into the police, and they refuse to take it. Then what happens? There are pre-dawn raids on James O'Keefe's home, pre-dawn raids on the homes of his journalists. They seize laptops, they seize other informations, things that could expose reporting, things that could expose their sources, things that violate the protections of the press in this country. That happened when James O'Keefe received a leaked document. What happened to Politico? What happened to Politico when they received leaked information from the Supreme Court of a decision that has now sparked protests, that has now sparked media, pushback, that has now sparked political repercussions against the justices, that has now sparked this whole scene trying to force the justices, as a legal proceeding is taking place, to abandon their, normal way of thinking about whether this is legal or not, whether it's constitutional or not, which is the normal basis they would use to make these kind of decisions. And they're now facing political pressure, media pressure, social pressure to ignore the Constitution and try to change their decisions because of pressure. What is the repercussion right now against Politico? Nothing as far as we see. And so they're calling this right now a betrayal of the Supreme Court, this leak, right? Also, we're going to see what happens with this as well. Roe v. Wade, they're saying it was flawed from the beginning. Roe v. Wade did have some issues. In fact, the woman who, of course, testified in the original case, trying to claim that, abortion should be justified, she actually admitted later that she lied to the court. She lied about her whole case. The whole thing was fake. But of course, it made, regardless of that, the court did rule in her favor before they knew she was lying to them. And of course, that made abortion legal throughout the United States from the federal level. Now, we'll see what happens as well if they do overturn it. It's going to be interesting, folks, because you're going to have a lot of the left especially freaking out. And this is probably become one of the main leading issues going into the midterm elections. And a good crisis for the Democrats, too, because, their main thing was focusing on January 6th, which frankly wasn't working in terms of getting people riled up, even among their base. It wasn't really working with them. This gives them something, a political issue to focus on. At the same time, too, we'll see how states react to this. The justices are making it clear that basically from the Supreme Court level, they're putting this back in the hands of representatives to determine the legalities or lack thereof of Roe v. Wade and of the legalizing of abortion through the Supreme Court, right? It's going to be a big case. We'll see what happens with it. It's not done yet, but we'll see. Now, folks, I want to talk about the food crisis. I know a lot of you have been talking about this. I've been seeing a lot of the reports. A lot of you send me, I'm active on Twitter. I'm active on Truth Social. I'm also active on Getter, mostly focusing on Truth Social. So if you don't follow me there yet, be sure to. My username is @JoshJPhillip. Send me messages, comment, whatever. I do read them, actually. I don't respond to everything, but I do read them. Folks, a lot of you I know are concerned about these fires at the food processing facilities. A lot of you are wondering what's happening with the food supply. You've seen reports, for example, maybe about avian flu. They burned alive like 5 million chickens because of avian flu. And this is now happening in other parts of the U.S. I want to give you a real full breakdown of what's happening. Also, I did an interview with Robert Unanue. He's the CEO of Goya Foods. And Goya Foods, I'm sure anybody who goes to the grocery store knows Goya Foods. One of the biggest food companies in the United States and also the world. Robert Unanue is saying that there is going to be a food crisis. There is going to be a food crisis is what he's warning about. You have similar warnings of this from other people, including Zelensky, including from Ukraine. Mainly, they're saying because of what's happening with the fertilizers. I should tell you real quick, Robert Unanue doesn't think the fires are a big deal. Basically, he explains it basically, saying it's a technical issue, and he'll break that down for us. I'll show you that in a bit. But he's also saying the fertilizers are what we all need to be watching, because the food crisis that is going to be coming, Zelensky's saying, is from the fertilizers. And this happens as well as different countries, including the United States, including Canada, including different countries, are actually placing restrictions on fertilizers. And why would they place restrictions on fertilizers when a food crisis is very likely coming because of, again, lack of fertilizers? Folks, let me go into this. Briefly as well, those of you on YouTube, those of you on Rumble, there's a lot of stuff we can't see on YouTube without getting censored. Again, which is why we started Epic TV. So again, after 20 minutes, we're going to jump exclusively to Epic TV. If you don't have an account yet, get your account. We'll give you a free 14-day trial. Get it in the description below. And also, it's the 1-year anniversary of Epic TV. And so we're giving you a 50% off deal, whole year. Check it out again. Link in the description below. Be sure to get it. Come join the discussion over at Epic TV. Come breathe the air of freedom. It's good stuff, folks. And again, we do an 1.5-hour broadcast now, so a lot more room to talk, a lot more room to go over stuff, and no censorship. It's fantastic. And also, I can talk about what's happening with Dinesh D'Souza's 2000 Mules documentary as well. And again, I'm in Florida right now for the premiere of that. All right, folks, let's go over what's happening with the fertilizers, and we'll go into questions a bit after this. Let me talk about this. First of all, Daily Mail is reporting this. Zelensky warns of impending world food crisis as Russia blocks 4.5 million tons of grain leaving Black Sea ports and attacks a key grain store. Keep in mind, Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe, breadbasket of Latin America, a lot of Latin America in terms of the fertilizers, and also one of the main grain suppliers to a lot of Africa. It says as well that Putin's troops also stole 4 million pounds worth of farm vehicles and shipped them to Chechnya, but they are remotely disabled. So they seized these farm equipment, but they were able to shut them down so nobody can use them now. Folks, let me say this. Let me go over this a bit. It says the Russian army bombed a grain warehouse. In other words, they're actively attacking food supplies. It says the Russian army bombed a grain warehouse in Ukraine and tightened its blockade of Black Sea ports. That blockade in the Black Sea is going to prevent the world from receiving these supplies. And it's sparking fears of a new global food crisis. That's a global food crisis. Around 4.5 million tons of grain are sitting in closed, occupied Ukrainian ports. according to UN World Food Program Director Martin Frick. And Mr. Frick said, none of the grain can be used right now. It's just sitting there. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also warned Russia's blockade will deprive dozens of countries of essential food supplies. And it followed news that Putin's forces looted £4 million worth of Ukrainian tractors and took them 700 miles to Chechnya before realizing they were locked. Now, it says, now Zelensky is saying this. He said they targeted the warehouses of agricultural enterprises. The grain warehouses were destroyed. The warehouses with fertilizers were also shelled, meaning Russia's also destroying warehouses where these fertilizers are being held. The president urged world leaders to prepare for a new food crisis and prompted by Russia's blockade of food on Ukraine. Let me go over one more thing on this. Then I want to go over what's happening with the fertilizers. Bloomberg is reporting this. Another story here. Can the world feed itself? Historic fertilizer crunch threatens food security. We just talked about what's happening in Ukraine. Ukraine, one of the main suppliers of fertilizers to a lot of the world, one of the main suppliers of grain to a lot of the world. And between them and Russia, fertilizers and grains, a lot of the world is not going to have enough. Remember now that farmers were already holding back on purchasing fertilizers for this. Again, you have seasonal, you have planting seasons. They're going to miss a planting season because of this in some areas. If that continues to another planting season, it's going to be very bad. Already it's looking bad, and this is Bloomberg saying this. Can the world feed itself? Historic fertilizer crunch threatens food security. Because, folks, it's not just limited to Russia, not just limited to Ukraine. There's other issues impacting the supply of fertilizer. It says this, for the first time ever, farmers the world over, all at the same time, are testing the limits of how little chemical fertilizer they can apply without devastating their yields come harvest time. Early predictions are bleak. In Brazil, the world's biggest soybean producer, a 20% cut in potash could bring a 14% drop in yields, according to industry consultancy MB Argo. In Costa Rica, a coffee cooperative representing 1,200 small producers sees output falling as much as 15% next year if the farmers miss even 1/3 of normal application. In West Africa, falling fertilizer use will shrink this year's rice and corn harvest by 1/3, according to the International Fertilizer Development Center, a food security and nonprofit group. This is a quote according to a senior fertilizer market specialist. Probably farmers will grow enough to feed themselves. So farmers are going to have enough food for themselves, but, she's saying, the question is what they will have to feed the cities. Now, a bit further on this, she says, when you add increased hunger across West Africa on top of the existing risk like terrorism, she says, this is absolutely dangerous for many governments in our region. Now, for the billions of people around the world who don't work in agriculture, the global shortage of affordable fertilizer likely reads like a distant problem. In truth, it will leave no household unscathed. In even the least disruptive scenario, soaring prices for synthetic nutrients will result in lower crop yields and higher grocery store prices for everything from milk to beef to packaged foods for months or even years to come across the developed world. And in developing economies already facing high levels of food insecurity, lower fertilizer use risks endangering malnutrition, political unrest, and ultimately the otherwise unavoidable loss of human life. Now, I'm going to go a bit more into this, but look, now they're basically saying that you're going to have, famine, loss of life. They're saying unrest, all kinds of problems caused by this lack of fertilizer. How is the world reacting to this? When they know the world, that they know right now, they're saying right now the lack of fertilizers, this lower supply of fertilizers is going to lead to starvation It's going to lead to higher food costs. It's going to lead to inflation. It's going to cause problems with the meat industry. That's going to affect jobs. That's going to have trickle-down issues on the global economy. That's going to have impacts on every household. Everybody's going to feel it. How are world leaders reacting to this? Well, here's one. Folks, in Canada, they're reacting to this by placing restrictions on fertilizers, claiming that fertilizers are a threat to global warming. Let me show you this. This is the Government of Canada. Government seeks guidance on path towards reducing emissions associated with fertilizer. Their reaction to this is to place restrictions on fertilizer because they're saying this: nitrous oxide emissions, particularly those associated with synthetic nitrogen fertilizer use, have also grown significantly. This is why the Government of Canada has set the national fertilizer emissions reduction target. That's Canada. How are other countries reacting to this? Here's the UK. The government is paying people to leave or retire from farming. I showed you this before. Let me show you it again. This is the government's website in UK. Apply for a lump sum payment to leave or retire from farming. How is the United States reacting to this? This is the United States. I'll show you another one. In America, Union Pacific Rail is restricting some shipments of fertilizer. Why would they restrict the shipments of fertilizer when they know this is going to become a global problem? When they know farmers don't have enough to feed, maybe even themselves, right? Why are they doing this, especially when America supplies a lot of the rice and a lot of the corn to the world? Why would they do this? It says here from CF Industries, their actual website, Union Pacific curtails fertilizer shipments, delaying deliveries and preventing new rail orders from being taken. No new orders. Can't do it. CF Industries Holdings, a leading global manufacturer of hydrogen and nitrogen products, today informed customers it serves by Union Pacific Rail lines that railroad mandated shipping reductions would result in nitrogen fertilizer shipments delays during the spring application season, the spring planting season, and that it would be unable to accept new rail sales involving Union Pacific for the foreseeable future. In other words, the spring planting season, not enough things, and no new contracts for the future ones. They're saying now a food crisis is coming caused by lack of fertilizer. Why are they doing this? Now, I'll show you one more thing, then we'll jump over to Epic TV. This is how world leaders are reacting, folks. This is a video on YouTube of Samantha Power. Samantha Power is a journalist and administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. This is YouTube. This is her saying this. Never let a good crisis go to waste. I'll play this video for you. Pull this up.
Fertilizer shortages are real now because Russia is a big exporter of fertilizer. And even though fertilizer is not sanctioned, less fertilizer is coming out of Russia. As a result, we're working with countries to think about natural solutions like manure and compost. And this may hasten transitions that would have been in the interest of farmers to make eventually anyway. So never let a crisis go to waste, but we really do need this financial support from the Congress to be able to meet emergency food needs so we don't see the cascading deadly effects of Russia's war extend into Africa and beyond.
There you go, folks. Global food crisis coming. Expect starvation in third world countries. Expect starvation in Africa. Expect starvation in Latin America. Expect civil unrest. Expect all these problems. Expect higher prices in developed countries. Expect all these problems. But you know what? It's going to help prevent global warming. The lack of fertilizers, people having to move away from fertilizers. You know what? It's going to help reduce the risk of global warming, according to Samantha Powers. That's how they view it. And they're placing restrictions on fertilizers as this crisis is coming because you know what, folks? It's bad for the environment. That's their position. Now, I'm going to go more into this. And also as well, we have an exclusive interview with Robert Unanue, CEO of Goya Foods. And he's going to explain as well what's really happening with this food crisis. He's also warning as well that yes, it is coming. Yes, there's going to be a global food crisis. And this is going to be causing a lot of issues for a lot of us, folks. That said, let's jump over exclusively to Epic TV. Folks, if you don't have an account yet, get your account. We'll give you a free 14-day trial. It's in the description below. Also, we have a special discount right now, 1-year subscription. Again, 50% off. And folks, it's your support that's keeping the show going. It's you making it possible for us to be able to report stories like this. And there's also a lot of stuff we can say only on Epic TV that we can't see on YouTube because they'll pull the video down or even ban the channel in some cases. Join us now. We'll jump over to Epic TV. But first, folks, 2,000 Mules, Dinesh D'Souza's new documentary. I'm in Florida right now, actually, for the premiere. I had Dinesh D'Souza on for an interview. They have evidence, folks, of enough votes being stolen to have changed the 2020 election. Evidence of enough votes stolen to change the election. This is what he's going to be presenting. We have an interview with him talking about this. I'll show you a trailer now, then we'll jump over to Epic TV.
The simple fact is that when you pay mules to deliver ballots, those become fraudulent and illegal ballots, and they can't be counted.
Did election fraud actually happen?
It did. If you have 2,000 mules stopping at an average of 40 or so drop boxes, dropping an average of 5 ballots per drop, right there you're talking about a minimum of 400,000 illegal votes. Now think about it. Georgia was decided by 12,000 votes, Arizona about 11,000, but in Pennsylvania there were 1,100 mules stopping at close to 50 drop boxes apiece. So you just do the math, you're going to come up with 250,000 or so illegal votes in Pennsylvania. We're talking about very significant fraud, and fraud that if you subtract the fraud from the Biden column, you begin to see Biden states moving into the Trump camp.
Yeah, folks, again, I did an exclusive interview with Dinesh D'Souza that's going to be just on Epic TV. We can't show it on YouTube. So again, thanks for being here. That's going to be this Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to tune in for that exclusive interview with Dinesh D'Souza. And again, folks, stuff we can't talk about on YouTube. That's why it's only on Epic TV. He's going to show us the evidence, video evidence, people stuffing ballots, getting paid to do this crazy stuff. Enough votes stolen to have changed the election. Regardless of anything, this is, again, basically going to change the discussion in this country. Huge story. Can't wait to show it to you all again this Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, folks, we're going to jump over now to Epic TV exclusively. Get your free account. Come over right now. And again, that keeps us going. That's keeping the show going. Come over now. Great content, great discussion. Epic TV only. Get your free 14-day trial. And get your discount as well. Come over now. Join us. See you there. All right, folks. Thanks for being here. Again, it's your support here on Epic TV. It's keeping the show going. Really, in terms of YouTube censorship, like they would have shut us down by now. So it's only